Well, hello and welcome to I Love Gay today. And I keep saying this all week. I have special treats almost every day because here's a special treat with Karel from Long Beach. Somebody I've
Actually, I'm in Las
known for
Vegas now.
somebody I've known for over 20 years. How are you, Karel?
I'm well, thank you. Here in Vegas, Covidia, as I call it, as I have dubbed it. But yes, I'm really well. Given what's going on in the world,
Yeah.
my gratitude list every night is long. I am healthy. I have my condo. You might hear my dog. She's up and about, and I'm healthier than I've been in my entire life. So I'm very blessed indeed.
I love hearing that. Well, in many ways, I actually do have a lot of times I kind of let things flow. And in this one, of course, I will also. But I do have a goal, which is that I've known you all this time. And yet at the same time, there's so many aspects of things you've done in your career that even are still new to me. And so I know you're thinking, because everybody, the one thing that always comes up first of mind is always your singing career. And I always think
Right.
of you just purely from that. And but you've been an activist. You've had a radio show for many years. And so anyway,
It's
let's just
funny
bump
because
into it.
they all led to each other. It's really
Yeah.
weird because singing, where I was promoting a record on Groove Radio back in the day of LA,
Yeah.
uh, someone wanted someone to host a talk show, and I had been on Groove Radio 16 times on their morning show with Poor Man and Dr. Danielle, who would later
Yeah.
be on my show on
Yeah.
KFI, and uh, this guy offered me a talk show, and Andrew started coming along on a little tiny station. And after 2 years, just in a remarkable turn of events,
Yeah.
we were on KFI together as the first gay couple in history to ever have done it. And I don't think there's been any since actually,
Yeah.
because they'd kill each other. And so the singing led to the talk radio, but the bigger entertainment success came in talk radio.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting because I always tell people once I started talking, I stopped singing. But I did because it got very intense at KFI and then KGO Radio, San Francisco. I was the only gay host on air there for a decade. And so, all of that. And then, of course, all my mess ups, which made, big, huge international dramas. And so it was very intense. And now, as I age, I'm glad that I get to now slow down and go back to some of the things that I love, like singing. And we branched out into television 5 years ago with Free Speech TV, and that's been just incredible and so much fun.
Yeah.
And so now, I'm very blessed that radio has now led to other things. So singing led to radio, radio led to books, books and radio led to television. So
Yeah.
it's been very nice. And as for being an activist, an activist is someone who just wants to live and is told that they can't live a certain way because of a certain reason.
Yeah.
And then they say, wait a minute, that ain't right. Andrew and I didn't want to be the gay couple on the radio. We just wanted, to be us on the radio. We just happened to be dorking each other. And when he died, I didn't want to have to change the law in California to sue for wrongful death. But my God, I watched him die in front of me. I mean, right in front of me. And I knew something went wrong. So to be told by a court that we didn't matter just seemed, just countermanded everything that we stood for. And so I couldn't let that stand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And luckily the appellate court saw things my way, or it would have been embarrassing. So I was forced into, as many people are, like the Black Lives Matter, they don't want to be marching and they don't want to be doing what they're doing, but they also can't continue to let police kill them without repercussion. So they don't want to be activists. Breonna Taylor's family does not want to be an activist. George Floyd should probably have a statue somewhere, given all the change that he's inspired. And I bet his family, his daughter, and his brother would trade all that and all the activism to have George Floyd back.
Yeah.
So activism is what happens when someone says to you, I'm going to treat you differently because, and you simply say no. You then become an activist. And so that lesson is taken into everyday life in so much as activism doesn't have to be changing laws or being the first gay this on the radio or what. That doesn't have to be your activism. Your activism can be I have new lighting. I have a ring lighting. Do I look spectacular?
You do.
And when I got this lighting, I went into the camera store here in Las Vegas, and this was right as the protests were happening. And some very large white gentleman was sitting on a bar stool, which needed lug nuts, it looked like, to hold it up. Del Shores. And he said to the guy behind the counter, who looked kind of annoyed, well, if I'm out there robbing and breaking things up, I'm going to get arrested. And as I walked by him, I thought to myself, nope, can't just let this pass anymore and say that's just an idiot. I said, yes, but you won't be killed. That's the difference. And so he says back to me something very derogatory. And I look at him and I go, so says the entitled white guy sitting on his bar stool in the camera store.
Yeah.
Well, then he says, F you. And I said, not with your shriveled old, anyway. And my friend Steve was that Karel or Charles? I said, that was both, because nowadays it's no longer acceptable to walk by and allow bad behavior to go unchecked. Gays and lesbians would have been a lot further, a lot faster, if our straight allies wouldn't have just shook their heads and said, that's too bad the way they treat those gays, but actually spoken up about it a lot sooner.
Yeah.
And this last month, and on Pride Month, I don't mind that it got co-opted by BLM. What I do mind is that gays still tried to party during the month. There's a time for celebration and there's a time for activation. And right now, nationally, is a time for activation, because we are literally dying and have zero leadership. And so, gays need to remember that this is what Stonewall looked like. I was only a few years old in 1969. I was 7. So I don't quite remember it. I was a hip youngster, but not quite that hip. But, I'm sure my parents were watching the coverage. I'm sure they were.
Yeah.
They were hip. But I was only 7, so I don't remember what Stonewall looked like. Well, look at Twitter and look at the BLM. That's what Stonewall looked like. There was looting. There was rioting. There was bad behavior on our behalf. And remember why it happened. It wasn't just about Judy Garland's funeral, which it was, that was that day. It wasn't just about the gays and the lesbian who said, why don't you do something? The battle cry that started the whole thing, as they're, hurting someone as they put them into the van. And this lesbian says, why don't you do something? And then someone did. Nixon had just been put in office, okay? The village in New York was gays and degenerates, as they called them, blacks, Hispanics, draft dodgers, people who didn't want to go off, people who wanted racial equality. So when we lit the spark in the village with the start at the Stonewall, that ignited a fire, just like with BLM. When they lit that spark with George Floyd, the fire, so this is what the first Pride looked like. Yeah. It's beautiful, but also very ugly. And it's the best and also the very worst of police, of people. And so I was hoping that gay pride organizations would look at what's happening and say, yeah, we do pride all wrong. We should have parades that aren't rose parades, which has been canceled first time since World War II. We should do parades that look more like rallies. And we should bring in allies like Black Lives Matters and other people, and have them in the parade, instead of just flatbed trunks with half-naked guys gyrating to disco music, one after one after. And not every pride is that way, and not every parade is that way. But we should really look at our pride now differently because of what we've seen with Black Lives Matter, knowing that this is what Stonewall looked like. And it wasn't pretty. And I don't think there's ever going to be George Floyd commemorations on that weekend with R&B music and beer tents and vodka sponsors. I don't see that being the way that they're going to commemorate George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter rallies in the years to come. So I think that maybe this will help us veer back into what Pride was originally about.
Which we saw a bit of that with the Black trans pride movements that are marches and so forth. Some of the things that we saw, and you're right, there's some of that, but at the end of the day, a lot of pride festivals, they kind of got caught where they were looking at it.
Well, LA is the worst. LA is one of the worst, and they just announced they're leaving West Hollywood. Good, get out.
Yeah, I saw that.
Go after 40 years. West Hollywood will just start their own, first of all. But second of all, Christopher Street West has never been a great, I in my first book, you can't say that. It was called that because a lot of the editorials spoke about things you weren't supposed to say.
Yeah, I
And
know.
I said that gay pride fails. It just fails. It's become too commercial, too profit-driven, too corporate. The boards realized that they could make a lot of money, and they do. And, you know, the gay acts are seldomly paid. I know, I was one for years. And I would watch my friend Thea Austin, who's straight, she sings rhythm as a dancer. I'd watch them offer her $2,000, $3,000, you know, $4,000, $5,000, hotel, this, that, and then ask me if I could drive there and get dressed in. And yet I was the only openly gay this or that. And, you know, Andrew, the weekend Andrew died, we got banned from the gay pride state in Long Beach. We got banned from it. The weekend that Andrew died,
Wow.
it was gay pride weekend, and they wouldn't let us up. Amber, the singer, wanted to pull us up because I know her. And they wouldn't let her because they didn't want us on stage because they were mad at KFI. Because KFI ran free ads for them because we were going to be in the parade. But Bill Handel's guy under it had this sounder go, homo, homo. Inappropriate and wrong, but if you know Bill Handel, right up he's an a-hole. His theme song is, I'm an a-hole. And so we told Pride, you're getting hours of free advertising on the #1 station that was formerly conservative right after Dr. Laura. We're not going to demand anything of the station. They're not going to apologize. You're going to take the free advertising. We're going to ride in your parade and you're going to get the hell over it.
Yeah.
They banned us for life after that. We could not participate in Long Beach Gay Pride.
Wow.
So they always miss the mark, and they're well-intentioned. I think that when I described gay centers in one of my books, I said, I think the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and the road at every center is filled with people with good intentions. I've seen centers change over the years. I haven't seen Pride change that much over the years. Centers have become much younger, much more in the community, much more connected via social media. They've become much more hip and relevant to the community.
Yeah,
there was a time where centers were very not the center of anything.
Well, things are changing now, but you know, what was even more fun is when you were talking about Thea Austin, I realized she's a integral part of all your music, your life.
She is my life.
I met her, by the way. She and I had a brief encounter. We were in Omaha together at an event she was performing at, and I wouldn't say I was performing, but I was doing something there. And she and I hung out, and I got to know her, and so it was really fun to. I didn't realize that you guys were so connected.
Well, oh yeah, we are. I mean, thick as thieves, 30 years. But the new single, "Married Men," just kind of happened that because of Thea and me, we were sitting at the house talking about the hypocrisy. You know, I said, you know, we've been able to get married now for several years, and you know, states haven't fallen into the ocean, and meteors haven't struck, although there is a pandemic. But you know, don't blame us. Blame meat eaters, all of you non-vegans out there. This is your fault. So anyway, we were sitting around and I said, you know, and yet all these mofos, you know, Trump and Kevin Hart, I know he got injured and everything, but you know, he got caught in, they all got caught in, all these straight guys, you know, and there still hasn't been that many high profile gays that have been caught in affairs. And I said, so the straight still seem to have the, and I said, remember that Bette Midler song, "Married Men"? And she said, yeah. I said, ain't the world just full of them? I said, you know, that was the first song I did in drag. She says, you're kidding me. I said, no, it wasn't. "Married Men" was the first song I did in drag because I was really ugly. So they said I should be Bette Midler. Nowadays, they just paint me all garish, and don't get me started on what I think about drag nowadays. But anyway, so we went into the studio, the Tough Shed studio back in Long Beach, and we sang to Bette Midler's version, Thea and I. She did all the background. She's all, they do it, you know, and then I did the leads. But I mean, we weren't like, we were just having fun, you know, and I was probably high. And then Leo Frappier, the guy who has remixed Sylvester and Ariana Grande and all the, you know, he's a friend, and Leo heard it and he said, this is fun. Let's remix this. Let's pull your vocals off and, you know, I know you just did it for your show, but let's remix it. And I thought, well, we could redo the vocals. He's like, no, this is just for fun, so let's do it. Well, then I moved to Vegas, and we're up here, and my friend Brandon's up here filming my TV show, and he said, let's go shoot a music video for "Married Men." And I'm like, okay. So we do in one day, which has me hanging out a car window, going down the strip with him filming, and oh my God, my dog is on the front. I mean, because Ember goes everywhere with me. It was quite a sight. The video is a hoot and holler. And then COVID happened right as we were promoting it. And we upgraded the app, my app. I've had an app. I talked radio stations into posting podcasts before they were called podcasts. KFI is like, why would we post your show on our website? I'm like, trust me, people will listen.
Yeah.
And of course now, podcasting and thing. So we updated the app, and the app now has everything feed into it. The Karel Cast app has it all just feed right into it, the video and everything. But it's been fun. And now I've been writing. I just wrote a song called March On. We're trying to find a gospel house producer, which isn't as easy as it sounds. And it was about what was happening. One of the lyrics is, I'll be your breath, because he said, I can't breathe. So it's, I'll be your breath when you can't breathe. I'll take your pain, you'll feel no knee. Because I think it's important that we, as gay people, continue to show solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and with the entire movement for equality that's happening in the country now. And I agree with the trans. Black people don't want to hear that there were Black transgendered people hurt at Black Lives Matter rallies by Black people. And so Black people don't want to hear that racism doesn't just extend to white people, that there is ingrained hatred and bigotry, racism, transphobia, homophobia amongst all people. And no one has the corner on it. And while white bigotry and hatred has caused Blacks and Hispanics, Latinos, and Asians concentration camps, we called them internment camps. Ask George Takei about those. While we have caused a lot of pain, that doesn't mean that racism is bad no matter where it is. So when Nick Cannon says that white people are evil and he's not fired, and Black people find a justification for that, that doesn't help the movement. Because equal is equal. Jefferson was right. Equal equals equal. I have a T-shirt that says that. I made it. I made the logo. It says equal equals equal. And so as we move forward, we have to remember that we've all been a part of it. It's going to take all of us to solve it, and we have to stay in tune with it. We can't let this be one of those short attention span things. We have to stay the course, because it's going to be a long one. Because there's so much going on in the world that it's going to be tough to stay focused on it.
Yeah, I hear you. But before we go, I wanted to ask you. It's just you lost a lot of weight. What's up with that?
I lost 110 freaking pounds. I lost a fifth grader.
You look amazing, and
I do. God damn it! So look, this is the new passion of my life.
Yeah.
We can run over whatever you can edit, but it is the new passion of my life. And I don't believe in a deity, but I thank the universe every day. I got healthier than I've ever been as the nation started dying. And I got off of 6 medications for things like high blood pressure, obesity, right as those existing conditions were causing people to get terribly ill from another virus. And suddenly, so I don't believe in divine intervention, but I will tell you this. True story, this is how it happened. It's all going to be in the book. I was, me, I'm in media. I was watching myself. Okay, Randy Harrison, Randy Harrison.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to the Pantages Theater to interview Randy Harrison for Cabaret, right? This is like 3-4 years ago when he was in it, right? Now I know I don't stand a chance in hell of Randy asking me on a date or anything, but I wanted to look cute, right? So I'm wearing this whole outfit, right? So we get there, my friend Benny Aguayo lets us use the backstage area, which is verboten. You can't go backstage if you're not union. It's just, but he sets us up in the dressing room. I have one person as a crew, big deal. By the time I get there in the back, I rode up on my Indian, it was fabulous. I mean a motorcycle. By the time I get into the back, I'm covered with sweat. By the time we do the interview, I have to take off my shirt and just have on a vest and the jacket.
Yeah.
It's so embarrassing. I go to my cardiologist that Tuesday and say, why? I show him the video, the raw footage. I say, why is this happening to me? So he takes my blood test. On Thursday, he tells me my testosterone is low. And I said, why? He said, well, age and probably the 100 milligrams of OxyContin that you take a day, along with the 4 Somas, the 2 Xanax, the blood pressure pills, the heart arrhythmia pills, and the muscle relaxers because of your debilitating back injury. And I'm like, well, then I have to quit the Oxy. If the Oxy is making he's like, you can't. You won't be able to walk. I could not walk. If you go to my website and watch my show Life in Segments, in season 4, in the middle of it, there's footage of me 310, bent over on a cane, crooked, and not able to stand erect. I quit opiates cold turkey. I'm not telling you to do this, but do it. I quit. Don't go on another drug to quit a drug, but I'm not telling you to do that, but don't do it. I quit opiates cold turkey. It was like Requiem for a Dream and Train Spotting combined for 4 days.
Yeah.
And on that Monday, I woke up out of the fog and I said, oh my God, you're a Trump supporter. And what that meant is I hate that they argue facts. Now, you and I have done interviews forever, and I've had people, the biggest people, Bill Clinton, Madonna, Dr. Dean Ornish, Dr. Dean Adele. I've had the biggest people in the world sit across the table from me and say, plant-based diet, plant-based diet, plant-based diet. And yet I've never done one. And I thought, why not? You've had the biggest experts in the world. So I asked Alexa how long the average male lives, and she said 24,800 days. And after I stopped crying, I said, I could give 90 of those to a plant-based diet. So not knowing anything about a plant-based diet, I threw everything processed. As Michael Pollan says, if it has more than 6 ingredients, you don't need it. And if it comes from a plant, eat it. And if it was made in a plant, don't. So I threw it all away and just started from scratch.
Yeah.
And I started learning the chemistry. My niece Heather is a chef. Of what does milk do in a recipe? What does egg do in a recipe? I started learning the chemistry, and suddenly I started walking with my little girl Ember, and 1 mile turned into 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and then 7 and 9. And suddenly the weight just started coming off. And after 3 years, this August, I've been a plant-based eater, except I have half and half in my tea. I do eat honey. I walk 2 times a week. I walk 3 times a week. I jog 5 miles with my dog. And we go up hills and everything.
Yeah.
I have a debilitating back illness, which requires massive surgery. And because I have strengthened the muscles in the back, if you saw the camera, I'm not standing straight, and there's not a joke there to be made. I have scoliosis, 20% curve. When they see my MRI, they think I'm not walking, that I'm in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
But because I lost the weight, I got off every medication. My blood pressure is 110/60. My pulse resting is 55.
Wow.
And my oxygen level is 98. Because I got off of all those meds and made myself stronger, I've avoided the surgery that they've said I've needed, to make myself able to walk.
Yeah.
So it's been the most remarkable journey. And we are a fat, sick nation. I'm not being insulting people. We just are. And a virus that likes fat, sick people found a fat, sick nation. And when we think of national security, and I'll leave you with this, Matt, because it's the most important message we can give anybody, gay or straight, but particularly gay. We have health issues, HIV. My friend Gary Bowie, I don't know if you know Gary Bowie. He was the head of Being Alive Los Angeles. He was an AIDS activist for many, many years. Gary Bowie died of COVID. I dated him in the 80s. So this is a gay and straight issue. What everyone should be doing right now, while we're all locked up and locked in, is getting as healthy as you can be. Get as healthy as you can be. Exercise as much as you possibly can. Find new things to do that you love, and get control of what you eat. Take it back from processed foods and start cooking again. Yeah. You're a human. The most important thing you can do is learn about your food. Learn about what you put in your body. And I know you're all going to say, I don't have the time, Karel. Well, being on a ventilator for 4 weeks is really inconvenient. But going to the grocery, calling Instacart, choosing great ingredients, and cooking 3 times a day actually can be fun. One will help you avoid the other.
Yeah.
So it's time as Americans that we refocus on what's the most important thing. You cannot help anyone be anything, be accepted or be loved or anything if you're sick. And if you're on a pill, you're sick. If you're on a blood pressure pill, even if your blood pressure is under control, you're sick, because without the pill, it's not. Yeah. If you're on any kind of medication for obesity, for diabetes, for all of that, then you're sick. So you have to get off that medication. And this is going to be the focus of everything that I do from now on, even as I'm entertaining and doing music and everything, is whenever I can talk to people about the fact that, because I got mad, Matt. For 55 years, I was freaking fat and unhealthy, and no one told me that it was easy as just controlling what you eat and moving. You mean
Yeah.
I didn't have
Yeah.
to be the kid people made fun of? I didn't have to be the guy that felt ugly at every gay bar. Gays are mean to fat people. They're very. Oh,
I
when
know.
Andrew and I were out one time, a guy in a bar walked up to Andrew and I and looked at Andrew and said, "You're hot. Why are you dating him?"
Oh,
My entire gay life, gays have looked down on me because of my weight. And, we need to examine that in our own community if we talk about equality and everything else, you know. But for me, what was even worse was I then accepted that that was just the way that it had to be, and so I dressed that way. I went very flamboyant. I did because I thought, well, then that's your. And then when I wasn't, I just thought, oh my God, it's that easy.
yeah.
And that's what got me mad, was that if I'd have just dedicated a little time to myself earlier, I would have liked the results sooner, because I'm 5.7. I'm going to be 5.8 this year. I don't age, I upgrade. And I would have liked to have had at least another decade to enjoy this,
Yeah. Yeah. No. And you're moving around and, and have a whole new lease
Even in
on
the
life.
heat. I'm sweating. It's 110 out here.
I
Good
heard
Lord.
that. Oh. No, this is good stuff. So I'm going to make sure that on the video we post, especially on YouTube, it'll have all the links to everything so they could find your music,
Sure.
your video, everything. So your YouTube channel. So yeah, we'll make sure that hopefully a lot of the folks that may not know you or may not know all aspects of you, hopefully they get excited and follow through and get a chance to get to know you better.
Well, I hope so. If nothing else, it was just fun to chat with you. That's really why I wanted to do the interview. It was just to catch up with you.
I'm so glad you did. So thanks so much for being here, and look forward to catching you soon.
Absolutely. And best to Fabrice if you